also to find out I share a birthday with Charlotte. That's cool. I did not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
How about that?
All right. Well, my friends, that was the highlight of my day too. I'm not gonna lie. I today was quiet on my end and honestly, before my husband showed up like an hour ago, I'm not sure I talked to another human all day long. So there's that. So that was thank you for allowing me this social moment. I needed that.
Okay.
Um, I would love to start with some brief introductions. I ask that you tell me sort of your connection to BNF, how long you've been a part of the organization, and why you're participating in this meeting tonight, why you're here, and what you think you might be able to contribute to this process. Does that sound like a plan? If we keep it pretty brief, we all see each other in a different order, so I'm just going to let whoever wants to go first go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Marilyn Graves, and I am privileged to be the Executive Director Treasurer of Baptist Nursing Fellowship, and that is an employed position. It's one that continues. We do have officers that we have elections. We have elections every year, and they kind of rotate back and forth, but they can tell you about what their role is. I've been a part of BNF since it started 43 years ago when I was on the mission field, and they incorporated me. And then when we came home from the mission field, I continued to be active. So I tell people that it combines two of my great passions, which is nursing and missions. So I love BNF, and I'm here tonight to see how we can improve our communication through social media because we want to continue to move forward and learn about the way we need to be in this day and age. Okay,
Perfect.
next.
Thank you.
I'll call on people. How about that? Connie, you go next.
Okay. So I'm Connie Jeffries, and I've been a member of BNF, I think about 20 years, but I'm not confident of that number. And for many years, I'm not sure I was a member of National. It's only been a few years that we became one national organization with chapters in the states. And automatically, when we join, we're members of National. So, um, and why I'm here. I think probably the exact same thing as Marilyn. I'm here to learn and listen about everyone's perception of what we're currently doing, and also looking forward to your recommendations about how we can improve because I think there are avenues that we haven't explored as far as social media, but definitely I'm a newbie to Instagram and don't know a lot about websites and a superficial user of Facebook. So I need a lot of help. And I am the communication team lead. So I definitely need a lot of help.
I got you, girl. I got you.
Thank you.
Excellent. She is a great communication leader. I'm just going on my screen. So next I see Charlotte Wyckoff, birthday girl. Why don't you?
Yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. So glad to be on today. I know it's my birthday, and I had thought about that a little bit when we were trying to decide what date and time. That's it's like, okay, am I going to be doing anything? My birthday. So yes, I am. I'm going to be with a group of ladies and an organization that I truly love. This couldn't be a better birthday present to me for right now. Is to be able to join you all. I am Charlotte Wyckoff. I am the current BNF president. So just actually officially, I guess, from the 1st of January. I've served the last 2 years as president elect. I've also on the national I have had a role on mission and faith team and the prayer team. Um, and I have been involved not only nationally, but statewide. Um, a lot of positions statewide, meaning team leader for the state of Alabama. I've been the mission activities project director, also under the state. And it was the early 1990s when I first joined BNF. And again, um, the mission of BNF, um, the love of missions is serving others is my heart. And that's what BNF that I feel, is doing. I am also interested, as my son usually says, you need to get into the 21st century. so, so that's what I want to learn a little bit more about, getting into those and getting, all the digital, the social media, things like that. As part of our retreat that we're coming up, and also for our um, conference in October, we're going to be dealing with some social medias and digital kinds of things. So again, that's just trying to learn a little bit more so that we can expand, that we can improve, that we can be really doing the service of what the Lord has mandated for this organization to do. And so I thank you that I must be glad to be on here and listen and participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
Libby, you're next on my screen.
Okay, thank you. I'm Libby Mahaffey, and I have been a member of BNF for about 10 or 11 years, but really have only been active in the last 3 years. I've served on the resource development team previously. I'm the current president-elect, and even though I've not served in leadership with this team, I have served in 2 national organizations as their lead. So I'm looking forward to using some of those skills, and really looking forward to hearing what you have to recommend for us tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Other birthday girl, Kay.
Yeah. Hi, Kristen. I'm Kay Bender. I was also a member of BNF back in the 90s, and then for reasons that had to do with busy job and lives, sort of lost touch. Um, and so I've been an active member again for about 5 years, I guess now. I think that's about right. I served with Libby on the resource development team. And then this year, I am the new education team chair. Have a little bit of background in that, as Libby and others do. So I'm interested in everything everybody said, but specifically related to my current role with BNF. I'm interested to see how we can bring our educational offerings that we do in between our annual summits into the 21st century, to quote Charlotte, as far as social media or other kinds of communications go. So I'm looking forward to this. And I agree with Charlotte. Wyckoff, it's a great way to spend a birthday.
You might want to reserve that opinion until after tonight's meeting. We'll check in and see if you still feel that way.
All right. And last but certainly not least is our President Emerita, Charlotte Rock.
I'm Charlotte Rock. I've been a member of Maryland since the beginning. I was serving as a missionary on the field and when it was started. And so because I was a nurse, they added me on. So that's been over 40 years. Recently, I completed my term as president at the end of December. And so I have the glorious title of President Emerita for 1 year, which just means that I'm supposed to advise the executive team. Uh, I've served on the executive team in different positions over the last 17, 18 years since our retirement from the International Mission Board. I've been a nurse for 60 years, and it's hard to know uh, which is it entwines so much of who I am, and missions and nursing really and truly is just my calling. And it's a wonderful way to serve the Lord um, through my nursing skills. And even when I was practicing nursing in this, wherever I was totally aware of, or not maybe totally, that would be an overstatement, because, but I was aware of who I was as the servant of the Lord in the service as a nurse and as a missionary. And so the last years that we've had the executive team, and we have improved our skills with social media, but we certainly need to move, as Charlotte would say, into the 21st century. I know how to do a lot of things, but I'm not adept at a lot of the things that maybe would make us have a better presentation to those people who are going to the internet and looking at our site, and how we can put ourselves out so that we would have more interest, which would lead to more membership, more opportunities for missions because our income would be greater, etc. So that's really, I agree with everyone else who's talked, that I would like for us to improve what we're doing and maybe go beyond what any of us would dream of what we would look like at the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, outside of birthday celebrations, is discovery. I want to understand your current communications reality. I want to understand your priorities for the next season and the constraints that we need to design our communications around. So immediately, I mean, not like immediately, not as in tonight, but the very next step after tonight's call is for me to put together a discovery meeting report. I will collect my notes from this evening and put them in a formal written report that I'll send to you, and I will ask you for your approval. Now, this happens before the communications plan because I want to be absolutely sure that we're on the same page. I want to be absolutely sure that I have picked up what you put down tonight, that I have fully understood what you intended for me to know about you, about your communications, about your goals and objectives. Once you approve that report, I will then do a little bit more research. I will likely reach out to Marilyn, who could then reach out to you guys for some additional context. I want to see some examples of things that I might not have easy access to, maybe even some data. So I'll complete a little bit more research, and then I will draft the full communications plan. You'll have a chance to review it, and we'll talk through the plan together. But that's sort of what this process looks like, and tonight launches that process. Any questions so far? Okay. So this is a listening session for me, which means I'm going to need you guys to talk. It doesn't appear anyone has any issues with that, so that's good. I want to understand first and foremost who owns what. What are the roles? How do decisions get made? Who is the day-to-day owner of BNF Communications, or who are the owners? Connie, that is you. Okay.
I'm one of them. Marilyn probably does a lot more than I do because she receives a lot of the communication and then moves forward from there. And sometimes that involves me, but sometimes it doesn't. So
Okay.
don't you think, Marilyn?
Right. From the website, any communication from our website, which is general population, would come to me, and then I direct it to whoever, or try to answer it myself, if I don't need to direct it. But we have an executive team that some of these ladies hold leadership roles. There are 9 of us, and each one, Kay works with education. Libby is our president-elect. Charlotte's our president. Charlotte Rock is our president emerita. Connie's communication. We have a prayer and faith team, and they communicate prayer needs and they plan prayer events and activities. What else do we have, girls? We have a missions team that plans mission teams and they communicate about mission projects and opportunities.
Resource development.
Resource development is a big one because they work with fundraising and distributing the funds that we have from some endowments for scholarships and education. And so they communicate to advertise the opportunities for those scholarships. And they also communicate with our donors and patrons. And what am I forgetting?
Did you
Leadership
say
recruitment.
membership?
And a membership is part of the president-elect's job. And of course, they are communicating with members, current and potential members, and church and Baptist leaders in states where we don't have BNF members.
Okay.
And then we have a leadership recruitment team, and they're sort of like our what do we used to call that?
Nominating.
Nominating.
Being
Yeah,
nominated.
they're the nominator. And they nominate every year. We have some of our officers that rotate off. And so they are looking for nominees for those offices and also members that can serve on our teams, our different committees. And I think that's everybody.
So the communication team, are they the people, or Connie, maybe that's just you, do they update the website? How does the website get updated?
I update the website.
Updates the website. Connie, do you handle all social media?
Instagram
Mhm.
is really the only one. Marilyn also contributes to Facebook, and there may be someone else that can post on Facebook. I don't think I can I?
Okay.
Yeah. And I also post on LinkedIn.
Okay, great.
And then the team that I serve with, we
Mhm.
do the newsletter. There, the newsletter is sent out by Give Butter, our
Your
platform that
your
we use.
donation platform. Okay.
And the faith prayer and faith team sends out a prayer letter once a month that's sent to all the members. It's called a prayergram, and so that communication, in addition to the prayer connects, which is kind of an in-house prayer to ask for prayer for different needs of the membership or the missionary nurses on the field. And so that's another communication that we have regularly, at least once a month for the prayergram, and then the prayer connect prayer request goes out. Okay, whenever there's a need.
Okay.
That's another avenue.
Is there any process for approving content, like, or sort of if there's something sent to you, you post it on social media, or you put it on the website, there's not like a checks and balances process, is there?
Yes.
Okay.
Before the prayergram goes out or before the lamplighter goes out, it goes to me and the president. And we look it over and make sure that it's accurate for one thing and appropriate.
What about for the website? for website updates? Is there any process? When might you update the website, Marilyn? Like, what are those updates like? What kind of updates are you making?
Well, if a state organization sends me something and says, can you put this on the national Facebook page, I do. Mostly if I'm putting something on our website, there's a connection that you can make that it will send it directly from Squarespace to Facebook. And so
Okay.
usually that's how a lot of things get sent to Facebook that way.
Okay. Perfect.
And usually Juliana, a member of my team that taught me how to use Instagram, we communicate with each other about what gets posted to Instagram. Mhm.
Okay. Let's see here. If you had to isolate, and this is, you can have different answers if someone says something and you would have a different one. If you had to isolate the biggest problem that we're trying to solve first, what would that problem be? What problem are we trying to solve first in walking through this communications plan effort?
I think it kind of started with us talking about we've had our website up for about 4 years, and we feel like um, it needs to have some updates. It does need to be organized better. There's just a lot going on there, and sometimes I think it's difficult for people to navigate and find what they're looking for. So some of that needs to be pared down. Um, and mostly that's user fault because I just learned as I go and just kind of plugged along with it. So I am open to turning it over to anybody or learning how to do it better. So
I think one
that,
thing that
that would be my thing. That I think the website and other things that we're communicating, but for me the
I
web.
think on the website that is that how can we keep it up to date? What are some ways to ensure, like for instance, if there were a meeting in March and it's May and that meeting is still already up, I'm not saying this is happening, I've seen it on other websites, then how can we ensure that we keep things up to date? So that when somebody goes to the website looking for something, that they can find something that is up to date and something that would be relevant for what they're looking for. Um,
From the education team standpoint, we have as one of our goals this year to test uh, something called enduring material for continuing education credits. And I don't know, Kristen, if that's a term that's familiar to you, but what that basically means is that we might have a webinar that we would record and have it formatted in such a way that it would be approved for continuing education credits. And a learner could go to our website and see what the menu, ultimately a menu of those available courses might be and do it on their own time, on their own pacing, and be able to go through the process. You've probably seen that on other websites, and we just, I'm not saying our current website couldn't do that. This is just a new toe in the water on the education side for BNF.
Okay.
right.
One of my biggest wants from all of this is that in locations that we feel like we have not reached, where we feel like there are people that don't even know about us, that we can create communication tools that something that's in our links, if they're doing searches on the internet, that they would be taken to our website and that they could find out about us very easily from that. Um, and that happens to me because as I'm putting in search items, I'm taken to places that I never even imagined existed, good and bad.
Yep.
But I think for us for the future that we even as close as in our own states, there are people that don't know about us. But then we have, I think the latest I heard is we still have 19 states with no members. And a few of the states that have members just have one. And so in those states, they often don't feel very connected to us. So I feel like our website is not alive. It's there, but it's not really an active communication tool all the time. And I don't know that that's what websites are for. It may be that that's Instagram or Facebook, but for us to be able to be connected to each other, our membership, I think as an executive team and some of the chapters in the states, they're very connected with each other. But then we have those, I guess you could call them desert areas where they don't really have that connection.
Is there something that can't change? Like, I'm gonna throw it out there, but I'm assuming, not that I would tell you to get rid of the prayergram. I don't know why I would say that, but like, let's say that I did. My guess is that's something that can change. Like, we need the prayergram, right? So, what items can't change? What just needs to be exactly the way it is right now? And I'm not allowed to make any commentary in my communication plan.
I don't know that there's any, as you say, like for instance, the prayergram is tradition and has evolved into some, a little bit more than it ever was, and it's very good. I'm not saying I agree. I don't think we want, but are there some suggestions for how something like that can be more effective? Because, just like this last one, we had a missionary nurse who was asked to write the paragraph. And that was kind of a different perspective because she's on the field and she's actually there doing what we've been praying about. So those are some of the things maybe that we might beef up, as we say, to improve it so that people can't wait to get the program. I mean, I can't wait to get it because I like to hear what other people's perspective on prayer and what it means in their lives. So, yes, but everything can be improved upon.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay.
But I know my team, the lamplighter is one of our responsibilities, but absolutely. I think that's just once every 2 months. And if there's improvements, changes, eliminations, if we need to eliminate the newsletter and do something that's more frequent and call it something else, does the name newsletter give people pause and they decide, hey, I don't have time for that. I'm not interested. And I really don't know. I think sometimes we do things for so long and don't even realize we need to make a change.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's back out some now, and I want to talk more about organization overview in a way that affects communication. So we're kind of just having a bigger picture conversation about BNF for this next little bit. Without just regurgitating a mission statement or what you think I want to hear. I'd like to hear in very plain speak for you, what is BNF here to do? Why does it exist? What is its purpose? Another way of asking the question is, what do you want to be known for?
In one word, it's missions.
Okay.
And you don't have to be a nurse to be a member. You can be a member of you can be another medical professional. So, but missions is what we're about. The organization was formed from the beginning to do missions, medical missions.
Mhm.
And so every project that we have or do, I would say we look at it from a missions focus. How is this going to bring the gospel to someone else? If we go to a community and do a quote missions project, how is that going to affect the people there? So I would say the word missions.
Yeah, I agree with
I
Charlotte.
would,
And
yeah.
I've heard others say that we would like to be known as the premier medical mission organization. And maybe nursing could be in there, but we don't have to be nurses to be a member. But premier is what I like, is that when people think about medical missions, particularly nurses, that BNF would be the one they would think of.
Okay, I like that.
What I think about also along with that is the fellowship, and that is the fellowship with the nursing profession itself. Yeah, we do a lot of, missions and things like that, and we do it with compassion and with caring. But it's that group of individuals from those 21 states that we have that are members. That's the fellowship. And so, whether they're students, whether they're retired, whether they are missionaries, is that when we first started, I know in the state of Alabama, where we was able to meet the nurses or the healthcare profession, was able to meet, have, dinner or have a little snack at some place. And, you just have that bonding. And so I think because of the COVID, because of some of the technology, we do a lot of things now virtually. And so in a sense, we don't have that closeness, that fellowship that we once had. And so about 2 years ago when I was with the membership team, is that we sort of set up the liaisons within those particular states. Because if you have a state as large as Texas or California, of course, it's impossible to perhaps meet and do that. But the virtual meetings come in, but have it so that it's not like a meeting, but that of a fellowship. And so again, we have our prayer connects when our members are reaching out because they have a problem, they have sickness, they have, health. And so I just like to be able to see how we can um, reach out to our members for fellowship.
I would just add to that. I mean, I'm a member of a lot of nursing organizations and a lot of non-nursing national organizations. What BNF provides for me that I just love so much is the blend of everything you've heard. And so it's the missions at heart, but the fellowship that Charlotte just mentioned and the education we do is all Christ-centered. I mean, you just don't get that, except maybe at your church, or something like that, but you just don't get that on a regular basis. So what I've been so impressed with BNF about is the way that it strives to blend around the mission's emphasis, the fellowship with like-minded people, the education that supports um, the Christ-like sort of way to go about doing our missions, or just how to do life, and encouragement. And we didn't mention our book club. We also have a book club, and I mean that also fosters fellowship. I think Charlotte would say that, but also it's just a very holistic, Christian-based organization that brings the fellowship, the missions, the education all together in one place. And I think we are premier in that respect.
And Kay, I think I agree with all you said, but it just makes me wish I had connected earlier. And because I have missed that earlier in my career, it gives me a greater desire to help others connect with that too.
I agree. And I build on that just a little bit, and I won't do a lot of talking, but I'm going to and Libby, I'll look to you for help if I misspeak. I'm not here representing the resource development team, but have served on it for the last several years. And, that is the fundraising arm, if you will, as well as Marilyn said, as to award scholarships and whatever. But one of the things we observed on that team when we look at the active members in BNF is a lot of us are our age. And while I'm very happy to be celebrating a birthday today, as I know Charlotte is, my energy level is not the same that it was, Christen, when I was your age. And so on the resource development team, we've talked about, the whole use of social media and other means, and Connie alluded to this a little bit earlier, to really engage younger nurses, earlier career professionals sooner in BNF, and find ways to do that in such a way that we not only reach out to those, as Libby said, sooner, but we're compelling in that outreach.
I want you guys to get a little bit more granular and specific in answering this question. Now I'm just kind of digging in. What specific programs and offerings matter most right now? So if you talk, like book club was a great example. But if you think missions, like what specific pieces of that, what specific pieces of education, what are the specific programs and offerings that matter most right now?
I think our education offerings, continuing education, is really high for me. We've talked about missions. Yes, that's important. For me, another one would be the education. And what Kay said earlier about being able to do self-paced online learning, that would be fabulous. That I would just think that was grand from my perspective, trying to keep my license, trying to get enough credit hours, and to have it be meaningful to what I believe. Yeah. We think it's a good outreach tool as well. And so it's not only, so for me, what I said about being able to post the self-paced enduring, just this year, if we could test one, as the website is being updated, if we could have a place where we could just test one, that would be awesome as far as education teams concern. But I also think that sort of in the overall promotion of the fact that we even have a webinar quarterly and then a whole day of continuing education at the summit and being able to promote that. Not to say we're not promoting it now, but just a broader reach to be able, that might be a way to even bring in some people that haven't been members, but who come because of that and then get hooked, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree with education, and that if we could promote our education as because there's a lot of ways nurses and healthcare professionals can get education virtually and at reasonable cost. But if ours offered something different, like a specific Christian perspective or a mission emphasis, but something they're not going to find everywhere in the secular world, I think that will be the hook that we can bring in people that it makes us unique.
Mhm. And also, as part of our membership, of our dues, as it were, includes that as they're free to the membership, and a nominal fee for those who aren't for the education. And I think another thing that the missions um, has tried to do. We had a very successful local missions opportunity that BNF sponsored in this past year, and involved a tremendous number of the local nurses and volunteers. And so I think the more, because everybody cannot go on a mission trip outside the country or else even into another state. And so I think what some of the emphasis is, hopefully will, as we evolve, that have as many local or state where you don't have to travel a long distance to be able to participate in a missions opportunity. And that changes lives themselves. Once it happens, and it changes the community where you go, the people who have a part in the ministry, even though they may not be members of BNF, but they have some input, and that does help. So yes. And
And
it's
I
not
think,
just one thing. I think what we're saying, if you hear us, is that although we have these different parts of who we are, that it's all the parts together that make who we are. Because like Kay mentioned, we have what we call page turners, a book club for members, and we may read a book about a biography of a nurse or medical person or a missionary, or we may do something, a spiritual, some way to look at our spiritual life and our prayer life and those kinds of things. And the prayer connects, the prayer events that we have throughout the year where we involve a larger community in praying for our missionaries and praying for our membership and our executive team and on when we that brings, even though, as Charlotte mentioned, we thrive on fellowship with people who are like-minded. And in the workplace, in many of the workplaces where we go as Christian nurses, sometimes it's very tough. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine who's a social worker, when she went to a hospital that was Baptist in its name, and she had not worked in a while, and she was overwhelmed by the lack of Christian influence as particularly in the job. So how do I handle that? Because even if it's a Methodist hospital or a Catholic hospital or a Baptist hospital or other facility that has a name on it that's religious, so to speak, all the employees are not Baptist or not Methodist, and some are not Christian. So we have to learn, how do we deal with certain things that happen in the workplace, and we can do that among ourselves and talk to help one another to have strategies to not be shocked when somebody drops a four-letter word that we don't like. And how do we respond in a Christian manner and not be joining in that activity? So that helps. The fellowship inspires that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I want to add to what has already been said, and that's to follow up with Charlotte, is that like just doing our missions, if they're local or statewide, because that gives us an opportunity. One of the areas that we list is that we are a Christian organization, and that is sharing the gospel. When we go to these various places locally and all that, we have that opportunity to share. We have an opportunity to ask people if they would like to have prayer, and all. So again, that helps us to, and also the people to say, yes, I would like to have prayer. Sometimes a lot of individuals that join BNF or go on a mission trip, it's really shocking to them to see how others live, what others, have to do and things like that to be able to survive. And that just gives them an overall view of caring for those individuals. So I think again, education, the missions and all that, but bottom line is also fulfilling Christ's mission. And anytime we have an area to evangelize or to share with others, that is, great. It's just like when we, Charlotte, when we was in the Dakotas, I mean, and this is how we do it all the time though, but when we are looking at someone for eyeglasses, wearing checking their eyeglasses, what do we use? We use the Bible, to see in how they're reading. And so they're going to be able to get that word about Jesus.
Right.
I think Kristen also, I think your initial question was, what do we absolutely want to keep?
This particular conversation was sparked by what programs or offerings matter most right now, what specific programs and offerings.
So I just want to say Summit, because we do come together face to face. And if that were to grow, not just with people present, but if we were somewhere or another able to live stream, even if people needed to pay a fee to participate through live stream, to have that connection with the people who can't be present wherever we're meeting.
Exactly.
Does everyone know how to access the chat on Zoom? I'm going to drop something in the chat and it might be easier for you to see it that way. If not, I can share my screen. But as we've been talking, I've been making notes about audience groups. Like, who are we trying to reach through our various communications? And this is the draft list. There we go. This is the draft list that I've come up with so far. So I've got obviously your members and active participants, lapsed members or drifting participants, your prospective members, partners and peer organizations, donors or funders, event attendees and continuing education participants, and the broader public. Am I missing anyone? Or does one of these not feel appropriate?
I think they're all appropriate. I do think that we're a couple of people have mentioned that most of us are a little bit older, and even though we're still working and being productive, we would really like to recruit some of the younger members too, to get them connected. And we just joined the WMU for a meeting last weekend, and seeing some of those young, vibrant women who are so on fire for missions, not just for Christ. Christ is the center of everything they do, but doing it through missions, it's really been made us again aware that we need to recruit some of those members too.
And one of the things that which may help us, Libby, is for our executive retreat. We have a speaker from the state WMU that will be speaking on the different generations and how we can interrelate with them. And so if we can get that information, she can bring that, to us, then perhaps, we can know how to be able to utilize that. But she will be speaking, Trish Jackson from the state WMU office on generations.
I like that you put broader public on there because I think for some of our nurses that don't know about us, we've talked about that pastors, other leaders in the churches, family members, anybody that hears about us knows someone in healthcare and hopefully could help spread the word. So I love that you've got that on there.
Aside from members and active participants, because those are the ones who are fully bought in, if you're looking at the other list, and Kay, I've made note of that. Yeah, for sure. If you're looking at the rest of the list, I want you to think about what gets in their way right now. If we want them to connect with BNF, and you can answer for all of them, you can answer for just one. I just want to get a feel from you of what you feel is getting in the way of these groups of people connecting in a meaningful way with BNF. This is just a brainstorming. Okay, that's fair. Thanks, Kay.
Yeah, I think right now, at least for me, I don't know if Libby had the same experience, but even though I was a member back in the 90s and then it sort of slipped off the radar, it wouldn't have been back on my radar except for an individual specific outreach. Somebody I knew that said, because I'd been living away and traveling a lot and whatever. And when I came back to my home state, somebody said, you need to think about this. And they were right about that. But that's pretty limited, right? And I think individual outreach is great, but I just don't think we're visible. We're not visible in enough places.
I agree.
And I think people,
Go ahead, Connie.
okay. I think people perceive they don't have enough time and they see the cost as a barrier. So those are feedback that I've had, or that it's not relevant to them, even if they're Christians. I think of the people I've shared it with who are primarily in the 20s, 30s, and I've given them books and talked to them individually. Some of them are in my family, and I'm not dynamic enough, or I'm not telling the story enough, or something.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think we have to acknowledge, Connie, at least my opinion, is we're living in a really interesting time right now where some people are very reluctant to be very visible about their beliefs. We just live in a strange time right now. And so, I'm not making this political. It's not about politics. It just is what it is. And so I think BNF has to acknowledge that also and figure out how to reach people in spite of that.
And Connie mentioned the summit a while ago, and attracting people to the summit. I think that's really when I started getting really involved here. It happened to be in my local community. Kay was there, who I've known for a long time. I ended up having two people, including Marilyn, who were commissioned as missionaries when my parents were. And somebody asked me to be part of a team. And, those things would have never happened had I not probably been at that summit. And so that's another recruitment if we can find ways to really make that attractive to people.
I want to get back to the list that Connie identified of barriers. I think that was really spot on. Sorry, I want to make sure my notes are right. Okay. Um, if you told someone about BNF and they said, I really just don't have the time right now, what would your answer be? How would you respond to that? This is for anyone who wants to answer.
I say if you don't have time, but your membership allows for others, maybe enable others to who have time to go on mission or do some of the things that we promote as membership. So that's my answer. If you don't have time, but you know, join and help other people.
Anyone else related to time?
I I think to when I said that, I I didn't mean they told me that. But if someone were to tell me that, I would I would say your membership, you can get something out of your membership without investing a huge amount of time because of access to social media and the continuing education that they have to get anyway. They need continuing education, and most workplaces don't provide everything that's needed. And certainly ours has a different perspective because of our faith-based presentation of our education. So I would definitely say that, but also that they could explore our website, and I would be willing to give them more information or sit and talk with them or have them join me online for one of the events, and so they could see without having to join. They could see a little bit of it and make their decision based on facts versus their perception.
Mhm.
Yeah, ditto. I would say do it for yourself. We're not asking you to commit yet to a committee or, some additional responsibility. I would hope that would come as they learned more about BNF. But, really to be a member, do it for themselves. You get the programs regardless. You don't really have to do anything except read them. You get the newsletter, and then the webinars are only for a year. They're free. It's 1 hour that you got to do CE anyway, and then the summit. So I have told people, do it for yourself.
What would you say related to cost? If someone was like, I don't know, I just like that seems expensive to me, and I didn't actually look at your costs. I have no idea what membership costs. I will look at that before looking at doing your communications plan. But what would your response be?
I
I
think
know I'm talking.
go ahead, Connie.
Well, I know I'm talking a lot, but y'all, it is very inexpensive compared to other professional organizations. And our benefits are comparable or even exceed a lot of organizations. So for healthcare professionals, I'm speaking about healthcare professionals. And um, I also say, okay, well, do you go to Starbucks and do you buy soft drinks instead of drinking tap water? And I think of the ways that we invest our money that are um, throwing your money away.
Mhm.
And the people I've encountered in so many areas of my professional career that tell me they don't have enough money for what they need to do. Um, I ask really hard questions. Do you smoke? What are you paying for your cigarettes? And are you going out to the bars and drinking? And
How many
there,
tattoos do you have?
yeah, I just there's a lot of things that I think are hard questions, but I probably wouldn't say any of that to a stranger, but to people that I'm
I was
close to.
about to say, please don't post that on your social media.
Yeah, no.
People that I'm
Please
close
try
to.
that away from me.
I have, occasionally, I'm not saying it's been very successful, but I have occasionally compared the cost of the webinars, for example, that are free to members with the cost of the membership. And that alone
Mhm.
is, he's right. There are a lot of webinars available. Very few of them are actually free, though. So, that alone covers covers a membership.
Right. I think too, it's important to tell people what BNF means to me. And we've done some of those little videos before, like, why did you come to the summit? And I think when people hear, why do I, feel this way about it? What has it done for me? Then they can either take that. And the other thing I was thinking is, it would be great if we could get an influencer, like maybe, uh, I can't think of anybody right off the top of my head, but some famous person, and they could be on our website and say, I believe in BNF because of, Taylor Swift. And I'm just thinking, way in the sky. But I think, in general, public people are easily influenced, and it's, just got to have that right element that appeals to them. And a lot of times I think it's you saying, this is, it's as we would if we were trying to witness to somebody. This is what Christ has meant for me, and this is what my church means for me. And, you know, take that and think about it, how it might help you or benefit you.
Right.
I had a follow-up question and now I've lost where it was. Give me just a second. The third thing that Connie said that I thought was interesting is that it's not relevant to them.
Hmm.
If someone said you were having a conversation about BNF and they said, I just don't know that that's relevant to where I am in life right now. Let's just say this is a 36-year-old nurse who goes to church with her family twice a month, right? So
Mhm.
connected, committed, has a lot of other things going on, busy life, small kids. What would you tell that person if she said, I don't know that's relevant to kind of where I am in life right now?
I think I would start with her church.
Okay.
If she's a member of the church, at least going twice a month, then she can set up, you know, maybe once a month, doing blood pressures or doing blood sugars. When every month there's always a health issue. There's, for February, we got heart, we have cancer, we have, different things, not heart, diabetes, I'm sorry, for February. And, she can start there. Um, I mean, that's not going to take a lot of time. Perhaps there are other nurses or health professions that's in her congregation, and we have means of helping them to set up a BNF chapter. How to go about going about setting up a BNF chapter in your church. And so, you know, that I think that would be one thing that I would start with was a suggestion, start there in your church.
Mm.
Well, and if they say it's not relevant, I'd kind of want to ask a little further and say, well, what things are important to you right now? You know, as your family, or let them kind of share what's important, and then find a way to kind of lead a thread back to fellowship, a Christian nursing organization, the resources we have, and you got to find out where people are.
Right.
Sometimes when they say things like I don't have time, or it's not relevant, or it costs too much, it's kind of a pat answer, and they don't really, they don't have they can't really back that up. Well, you're right. I do spend a lot of money on this, that, and the other, but anyway, to get a little background.
If you scroll back up in the chat and take a look at that audience list again, is there anything else that you kind of want to speak to related to any of those audiences? Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I'm like Connie, I may be talking too much, but again, I want to wear my former hat on the development team, donors and funders. Um, we communicate with them right now often. That team developed a plan to do that so that people who donate on a regular basis, people who sponsor the summit, stuff like that, get a automatic sort of email thank you from Maryland once they've donated or whatever. And then the resource development team writes handwritten thank yous. And we usually try to say, because of your donation, BNF was able to do whatever they donated to. And then we also send birthday cards to those folks. Libby will have to tell me if I've left anything out. I guess I just would have a question as to whether there's any best practices out there in terms of communicating with regular, ongoing donors, other than the approach we have. I'm not saying what we have is broken. I think it's actually quite intensive, and I mean that in a good way, and continuous. But I think we are always, any organization is better when we ask the question of, is there something different we could do there? Communicating with our donors.
Have you ever done an impact report of some kind, like an annual just to donors and funders? Like this is the impact that our organization had. Have you ever done anything like that?
We did some at the resource and development team put together a letter this year at the end of the year and sent it out and said this much money was given to scholarships. I can't remember all what it had on there, but I think that was maybe the first time that's been done.
Okay. Give me 1 second because I have a list of the things I'll need from you, Marilyn, at some point, and I'm going to add a copy of that letter to that list. Let's see. It's the send me this list. Here we go. Didn't want to forget that. Okay. Anyone else? Any commentary on that list of audiences as something that needed to be said that hasn't yet been said?
I think we talked about younger audience, and I was thinking particularly nursing students. That's probably included in one of these generals, but we've always had an emphasis to try to reach nursing students and has not always been successful. One thing, I'm not sure if you're aware, there's another national organization called Nurses Christian Fellowship, and it is associated with InterVarsity. And I know the director of that organization, and she and I have had conversations that we're not in competition with each other, but really their strong point is working with students because they have a lot of infrastructure with InterVarsity on campuses and all. And we see our strong point as missions. Not that we don't do students and not that they don't do missions, but we kind of feel like that's where our strong point is.
Mm.
So, as much as I would like to reach out to students, I feel like they really have a better take on that than we do. And they have a lot of resources that we don't have, and a lot of networking that we don't have in that. But at the same time, I would like for us to include nursing students in those audiences.
I think that that is great that we still need to continue working with the nursing students and with the colleges. We will have we'll have a panel this retreat that is with the medical instructors and faculty, as well as some of the students are in different aspects on how we as BNF as an organization can relate to them more. How can how can we be a part of them, and maybe hopefully that we can gain some feedback from this area. Of course, this is just one state, but of Alabama, but we can take it, to other various states and things like that, and be able to find that out. I have found that um, we have been invited. The schools have invited us, again, Alabama, to participate in some of their college fairs. They're inviting us now. Come and set up a table. Come and talk to our students. And so I think it maybe takes a little longer to, work with them and interconnect with them. But I still think that, again, not to drop the ball, but continually to do what we, need to do. And that's one of the things that I've talked with some of the retirees when they said, well, what can they do or whatever. And I say, one of the things is mentoring. Mentoring, our students, mentoring those first, second year people nurses that have come on. So we would just have to build up our program more that, we right now we have, I think, Libby, about 360 something members. But as far, what is the percentage of membership that we're actually utilizing, or they're being an active part in that? And so, perhaps asking some of them to, if they're retired, to be a mentor, if that's something they like. If they want to write out scriptures, I had one faculty member to tell me that she said, I have an area up on the second floor, and this is a non-Christian school. In the little corner, she says, and I put devotion books, I put scriptures, and everything. So she's a faculty. If we can know, if we can find the link to those areas, then I think that can also help us with our schools. And then for those colleges in those states that the blessing of the hands, that is a great, and I think, you're seeing, the public is seeing that, and that's a great display, and that's a great work. And I would like to see more of our states participate, in that if they're available to do that.
That's good.
So with the remaining time that we have, I want to make sure that I have a really solid understanding of the communications assets that go out. So you've got your website. You have various email types to include prayergrams, Prayer Connect, the Lamplighter, donor communications, and they each kind of have their different cadence and flow. You've got Facebook and Instagram, but they are not connected, and different people have different access to them. Okay. Do you do any print work? I assume some things are printed for your summit, maybe, but is there any print that's done as part of your communications? Oh, Libby, you are muted, my friend.
Yeah, we do have a membership card that we use that gives some of the basic benefits. And so we have that available. We have the resource development team that Kay talks about. We did a bookmark to remind people what happens with their money when it's contributed. So there's several things those are the ones that I know of.
Okay.
I forgot those things. And yes, the book. We have a book.
Okay.
That's the history of BNF that we give away.
And yeah, and also the booklets that we have on membership and BNF Call to Care, that it's named. One of the things that I would like to look at that, and I'm not sure when we can be able to do it, and that is to have a digital magazine, a digital magazine. And so I know someone that has some information on it. I haven't gotten all the ands and ifs, to be able to present it. So that may be something also, because it'll be digital, it'll be free, and we'll see.
When you're advertising events, whether it's your summit or a webinar of some kind, what does that event communication look like? Do you send a special email? Is it part of the lamplighter? Assuming you post it on social media, but how do you communicate events specifically?
It goes on all those. It goes Facebook, website, lamplighter, emails. It depends on what the event is. Might send the email out to all our current members, or we might send it to current members and patrons or donors, or we might send it to WMU leaders. It could be, targeted to a certain group, depends on what we're trying to communicate about, what event.
Marilyn, give me the 2-minute understanding of the relationship between BNF and WMU. I'm not looking for like organizationally, I understand that, but like practically speaking, what do you share? What does that look like day to day? What resources can you glean from them? That kind of thing.
Well, BNF was started under WMU 43 years ago, and through the years, we have received a lot of support from them. But I would say in the last 8 or 10 years, WMU has pulled back some of the financial and administrative support, and we've become more and more independent in that way. Currently, sometimes each state is a little bit different. In some states, the state WMU is very supportive of BNF financially and administratively. In other states, they are not.
Okay.
But national BNF is, they're very encouraging as far as the national office, and they invite us to come to their January board meeting, which Libby and Charlotte and I just went to, and we're invited to give a report, and they invite us to offer blood pressure checks and glucose checks and to have a display table. And in that way, we're very well supportive. But the other support statewide is very individual to each state. I'm glad you know what WMU is, because some people, I always ask people, how familiar are you with the Baptist Church? Mm-hmm. And if they're not at all, then I just, don't even want to talk about it. I mean, I'll tell them what it is, but they don't get it. And even if they're in the Baptist church, it's like,
A
oh,
lot
well,
of
you must know about BNF. Nope, never heard of it. So, yeah.
Oh, nope, I'm very familiar. Um, is there any specific communications output that we have not brought up today that hasn't been at least briefly mentioned?
Word of mouth.
Not wrong.
One of the methods of communication our church uses is a phone tree. And I don't know if that's something we could do or would want to do, but that's
Well,
very helpful to our church members.
um, the software that we use for our donor management is Give Butter, and through there, that's how we send our emails. But through that, you can also send text messages. I think the only people that have really used that to mount to anything are the group in Texas. You can also use through that software that they provide, you can do printed letters, but we have not used that.
And Kay, related to the continuing education access that's self-paced, have you looked into how that will be, like how you'll build that? Are you going to record it on Zoom and just make that available? Are you looking at specific software? I'm just curious if you've explored the how behind that yet.
Not in any great detail. We have discussed it at a pretty high level, and we want to keep it simple. And so, and also to not cost BNF, anymore. So, what we were discussing was a way to post a link to either a Zoom recording or something that we transferred from a Zoom webinar to YouTube, for example, and then added what the learner must do to get um, so we were trying to keep it simple, accessible, and cost effective for BNF.
Okay.
So I would say that to say I haven't spoken with the executive team yet in any detail about that. I mean, they know it's a goal, but I would say probably not to purchase like additional learning management system kind of software. I think that
Yeah.
might be outside our budget unless we got a donor.
Or a grant.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Would
Get
any
a
of that,
grant.
would that a grant, something like that, writing a grant cover, perhaps cover that?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
possible we certainly could do that.
yeah,
And Charlotte, you probably remember when I was on the resource development team. I mean, we put together sort of those grant writing guidelines. So if we ever identified that opportunity, I'm certainly the team would be prepared to get that out the door.
Okay. With about 4 minutes left. Um, I'd like you to answer one more question for me. I can approach a communications plan in a couple of different ways. And it really depends on the client and the client needs. A communications plan can paint for a client a best case scenario picture. If you have the resources, I would encourage you to do these things for the ultimate benefit of the organization. And then I sort of prioritize like, okay, but acknowledging you can't take all of this on, or you might not be able to do everything. Here's how I would prioritize it. So it's sort of I'm telling you what could be and what I think is optimal for BNF, and here's how to get here. Or I can be hyper practical about the fact that this is a primarily volunteer-led organization that has limited resources, and I can give you a step-by-step guide for what I think you really need to do to thrive in the next year, 2 years that will support the future of the organization, but it's not as much of a like, here's where I want you to go. I will figure out based on this conversation and what I see in some of the examples I'll ask for, what makes the most sense. And sometimes sits kind of in between the two. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think you're most in need of right now? Hyper practical, what really has to happen because man, we're behind the curve. Or let's get really excited about this big picture and try to figure out what might be possible because we couldn't have even dreamed of this. What feels most useful to you?
Mm. That's,
I kind of like what you said about something in between, maybe some of the big dream, but I really think for right now, that very practical next steps is going to be very important for us.
Anyone else?
mm, mm,
Well, I think with the first option, I think we have to keep in mind that our leaders, our executive team leaders, do rotate on and off. So every year we have someone new that joins the executive team, and therefore someone that may be a part of implementing what we need to implement may be rotating off. And so I think that becomes an obstacle for us really continuing because those leaders are learning their role at the same time that they would be trying not to fall behind the curve on implementing.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Good point, Connie.
Helpful. Anything else that needed to be said tonight that didn't get said?
I like the big picture and dream, you know, for more than we could exceedingly expect or imagine. But like Libby said, we have to be practical because we know our limited resources. So somewhere in between is where I would say.
Christian, is it possible that you can come up with a plan, say a 5-year plan or a 4-year plan, but then do it, intermittently. In the first year, this is what needs to happen. Second,
Yeah. I usually do
that,
phase all of my plans. So everything is prioritized and phased and sort
yeah,
of
phase, yeah,
so that
uh-huh.
yeah, I think
Because,
I would overwhelm all of my clients if I told
yeah,
them to take everything on.
yeah, because
Yeah,
we could see what you have for the overall, but
Mhm.
then when you break it down into the different phases,
Mhm.
that would help us to say, okay, yeah, we can accomplish this in 6 months or a year or whatever.
Mhm.
I think it would be very invigorating to our membership to see the big picture and say, dream with us. This is what we might look like in 5 years. And
yeah.
in order for us to get there, we need
Right.
to step up and help us get there.
I would agree. And I think wearing a grant writer hat. So if we
Yeah.
were to have a even a 5 to 7 year plan, it's been my experience that having that on paper and approved by the executive team and all that would be great if a grant opportunity came along for us to say, this is our five or seven or whatever communications plan. And based on your funding priorities, you could help us do this part of it.
Mhm.
So I really like that idea of a dreaming big and then practically implement in phases as we're able.
Marilyn, will you make sure I have everyone's email address? Will you send
Yes.
me an email and like Connie, I have yours, so I'm using you as an example, but Connie Jeffrey's email address.
Right.
I will turn the discovery meeting report to you by end of day Thursday because I have a big day of filming on Friday. So I was going to say Friday, but that's just not going to happen. So it'll need to be Thursday. If I give you a week to read it and send feedback, is that enough? Is that okay? I like to, if we're busy, I hear that, but I also like to kind of maintain momentum. Okay, so I'll send you the discovery meeting report draft by Thursday, end of day. I'll give you instructions on how to give me feedback on that document in the email that I send, and I'll give you a week to do that. After that, Marilyn, I'm going to reach out directly to you for the send me this list, and I'd like to see, maybe I'll CC Connie. I might need some like lamplighter examples and things like that, but I'll reach out to you guys for that. And those things set me up for drafting the plan itself. Once I have a draft, I'll reach out and we'll have to schedule another group meeting, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
That sounds great. We have
Sounds good.
our executive team meeting next week. And
Mhm.
so when we have your report, I think, Charlotte, this might be something good to share with the executive team.
Sure.
And we can discuss it. I mean, it's not something we've already voted to go into this. And so this would be a good time to report and update
Yeah.
to
Okay.
the rest of the team of where we're headed. So very exciting. I hope you're seeing the chat that everybody's very excited.
I do see
And
that.
thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys. I'm very grateful.
Wonderful. Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this and for trusting me in this work. I don't take that responsibility lightly. So I'm very, very thrilled to come alongside you in this way. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.